I am astrologer Penny Dixon channeler, and welcome to our channel, Channeling and Stranger Things. And with me, as usual, we have a wonderful guest today that my colleague, who is
Sarah Sand-Smith, hypnotherapist and channeler,
Good morning.
is going to introduce.
Yes, so today we have a special guest, Keith Ellul, who is from
Ellul.
Malta. Sorry?
Ellul.
Ellul, yes, sorry. Who is from Malta. And now, incredibly interesting gentleman, great photographer, artist, works in the technology sector, but has a particular interest in UFOs, UAPs, and all the kinds of stranger things that we talk about on our channel. So, Keith, please just sort of tell us a bit more about yourself and how you sort of developed these interests.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you for inviting me, first of all. I started being interested in the UFO subject at a very, very early age. I remember my parents, when I was still a small child, I was still in the pushchair. They witnessed something extraordinary. I remember them saying they were in Aridut, it is in Slima, where there was the Shalia. I don't know if you ever heard of the Shalia. It was
What is that?
Shalia. It was
Shalia.
built Shalia. Shalia. It was
Shalia.
built by the British at that time.
Yeah.
It was used as a restaurant.
Oh.
Basically, this was in 1979-80. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, I'm 47 years old. I was just maybe
baby.
1 or 2 years old. Okay,
Mhm.
just to make it clear. Now, I remember my parents telling me the story that while they were there in the afternoon, late afternoon, a shadow, something casted a shadow over the Slima promenade. And when they looked up, they weren't alone. There were, I mean, a good number of people. Everyone saw it. And they saw a black triangle floating without any sound. It was floating silently and in a slow, very slow speed. Basically, this sped off onto the sea and disappeared. And I remember, as a child, I used to ask my father that, tell me, give me details. Tell me, what did you see? What did you witness? And I used to ask my mom as well. My mom had another experience when she was very young, not even engaged to my father. She was playing outside in the streets with her brothers and sisters. They were 11 brothers and sisters. Okay.
Wow.
And
not much television in those days then.
No, in fact, yeah. And she describes, well, my mother was not, bless her soul, was not a very academic person, and she said the moon came down and it was green, a big green light, and it came over the where they were playing. So this again sparked a lot of fascination. You know, I love the mystery. Whatever it is unknown, I question a lot. You know, by time I discovered that my grandfather, who's my father's father, he was a researcher. He was not just a researcher on UFOs, he was researching the paranormal in general. He was researching also the story of Saint Paul coming to Malta. In fact, I have a big file about the research of Saint Paul coming to Malta, which I would like to publish in the future. This obviously sparked a lot of interest. I started researching myself. I remember I was 10 years old when I started going to the library. At that time, obviously, there was no internet. And I started going to the library, getting books. And at that time, I used to think that these, call them whatever you want, UFOs, they were coming from different planets. By time, research, this and that, and I came to believe, I shifted my belief that there is a more spiritual thing behind it.
Mm.
Well, basically, as you know, I am also the frontman of Contact UFO Malta, which is the leading platform for UFOs here in Malta. And also, I co host together with Sayan Kassar the Sayan Kassar podcast, where we discuss not just UFOs, but the paranormal in general.
Mm-hmm. And are they in Maltese or in English, just so our viewers know whether they could actually tune into them?
Unfortunately, most of the podcasts are in Maltese.
Right.
But recently, me and Sayan decided to invite international guests. Like a few months ago, we had Paula Harris,
Yes.
okay,
Mhm.
and Mike Fiorito, who is a very good friend of mine. He's an Italian, Napolitan, but American-based UFO researcher and an author. I have his books. I read them both. It's fantastic stuff.
Okay.
So would you like to tell us a little bit more about, the sort of UFO, UAP sightings that have been in Malta recently and over Gozo? Because I know over the last few years there have been a large number of them. So, please tell us a bit more about, what has been seen.
Sure. Let's start from one of, in my personal opinion, one of the best sightings over Gozo Einsilem. It was, if not mistaken, 2000. A foreigner filmed, I can send you the link, filmed 3 bright amber orbs, which were behaving not in a, let's call it, conventional way. Okay, triangular formation, then moving, then forming a line. It was, I believe that was one of the greatest sightings ever recorded in Malta. Now, just to let you know, the first ever recorded sighting in Malta, believe it or not, was in 1845.
Wow.
Yeah. A crew of a ship, Victoria, they witnessed 3 bright orbs coming out of the water and flying into the sky and disappearing into space, basically.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't have much information. Unfortunately, it's 1845, so you can appreciate. But another interesting fact is that 1977 was a hotspot, was a hot year for Maltese sightings. I believe there were 59 recorded sightings. I mean, for Malta, 59, it's quite,
That's a
Yeah,
lot.
that's
Yeah.
quite, for the listeners, Malta, I always say is smaller than the smallest town in UK.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Malta is a tiny rock.
Mhm.
Recently, it's not because there were no sightings, but unfortunately, there were no platforms so people could report. Okay. Luckily, Contact UFO Malta was formed back in 2019. I wasn't the founder. Okay. I have another colleague who is the founder, but he was just focusing on local sightings. And obviously, since the volume is very low, the page just,
Mhm.
you know,
I know.
kept small, few followers. I believe when I took over, we had around 300 followers. Nowadays, we have 3,400 followers. So, and that is in 2 years.
Wow.
But I started focusing on traditional lore of ufology, obviously sharing news, current news around the world, and obviously sharing local sighting. Now, we opened a YouTube channel as well. I will send you the link. And in fact, we are already collecting videos and photos to have a small repository of all the sightings with all the details.
We'll put the link in the
Yes,
description
please.
box. Yeah,
I appreciate it.
I am a subscriber actually.
Okay,
So
good,
am I.
good. Something else which I'm working on, basically at the moment, people just message us on Facebook, send us emails. I'm working on a dedicated website, just 2 pages, nothing more, where people can report their sighting and attach videos and photos. So this should be, I mean, launched in a couple of, let's say, weeks' time.
Mhm. What did you think of the pictures that Sarah managed to take of the UFO that she saw over
Mhm.
her home in Arla, the one that seemed to have like an Ouroboros
Yeah,
inside and the face of a man with a beard? Someone actually looked like you, actually.
yeah, I remember you tell me. Well, the photos are compelling. Okay, I'm not saying they are proof. Obviously, nothing is proof
No.
unless we have something that we can touch and we can communicate to. Nothing is proof. So everything is compelling. Um, from what I saw, yes, it looks like an orb. It looks very similar to what I've witnessed in 2007.
Mm.
Okay. But the face, I mean, it could be pareidolia. Okay.
Could be
Um,
what?
Pareidolia. Pareidolia basically is that our brains
Mhm.
are wired in a way
Mhm.
to see familiar shapes.
Ah, right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, for example, if you look at a socket, electrical socket,
Mhm.
you see a face in the socket because we are wired to see three three things in a
Yes.
triangular formation. Basically, our brain tries to make order from chaos.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And this is like when you see Winnie the Pooh in the sky and the clouds,
In the
you
clouds.
know,
Yes. Yes.
you
Yes.
know, or when they say they see a Marian vision, okay, the Madonna,
Mm.
okay. But the photos are compelling. I I mean it's something which we don't have in our arsenal, okay, in planes. It's not a drone. I don't think it is a Chinese lantern. So yes, compelling. I receive a lot of those kind of videos and photos. In fact, recently I just received a very good video.
Mm-hmm.
It's hot.
Yeah.
It's too hot in Malta. I just received a very good video from two different angles with two mobile phones.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple on the roof doing a barbecue,
Mm-hmm.
and they spotted three different objects.
Mm-hmm.
They were black in the beginning. They were in a triangular formation. They started recording a video. Then they formed a straight line. And from the video itself, it looks that it was going to get dark soon. In fact, it's either the exposure of the camera shifted from okay
Day to night. Yeah.
day to night,
Mm.
but all of a sudden these three objects started glimmering.
Mm.
They had not their own light; they were reflecting light,
Mm-hmm.
and these moved in a straight line and fled away
Disappear.
behind, yeah, disappeared behind the buildings. and it's on the YouTube channel as well.
Okay. How can you differentiate between, because we have so much drone technology now, how can you differentiate between what might be a genuine UFO or UAP and a drone?
Okay. We are talking a sighting of the first kind in this.
We were going to ask you about that, the different encounters.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, we can, I mean, we
Go through
can,
the close encounters. Yes.
yeah, sure. Basically, the close encounters of the first, second, and third kind were introduced by Dr. J. Allen Hynek in 1972. And basically, Dr. J. Allen Hynek was an American astronomer and astrophysicist.
I know, a lot of words, a lot of syllables.
And he served also as the scientific advisor for the US Air Force.
Oh, wow.
He was appointed as the head of Project Blue Book. I don't know if you ever heard.
I've heard of it, yes.
Okay. Basically, it was created by the American Air Force to discredit and debunk UFO sightings. Dr. Hynek was a skeptic in the beginning, but then when he started seeing all the reports and investigated also on the ground, he became a believer. In fact, he left Project Blue Book, and in 1950, if not mistaken, he came with the classification CE1, CE2, CE3, close encounters of the first kind, second, and third. Now, for the listeners, close encounters of the first kind is what Sarah saw, okay? I mean, something that you cannot explain. And after you rule out all the usual suspects, okay, planes, drones, satellites, Chinese lanterns, whatever, basically there are tools nowadays like flight radar. You can know if it was a plane.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I'm not thought of checking with that. Good idea.
Yes, it's an application. I believe it's free.
Yes, I think so. I think I've got it actually.
And the name is Flight Radar 24. Basically, the good thing about Flight Radar 24 is that you back time. So if you receive a sighting, for example, someone telling you yesterday, if he gives you exactly the direction where he witnessed the sighting, you can rewind back and see what flights were passing over the area.
Great. Yes.
Basically, when nothing conventional, okay, fits the bill, and you apply what we call Occam's razor, okay, sometimes you are left with something that is unconventional, and something that you can understand that it's not something prosaic, okay, something like a plane or drone. It's by the behavior, by the flight characteristics, the lights. Now, you know that drones, they have to abide by certain rules. They must have the green and the red lights.
Oh, really? That's worth knowing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So when you see an amber object, I mean, it couldn't be, it could be a Chinese lantern. Yes.
Right.
But Chinese lantern, they don't go zigzag.
No.
Okay. And they don't speed up and then go back and then move down. I mean, when you roll out all the conventional stuff, you are left with questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the object we saw here when we were both together moved across the sky. We thought perhaps it was a plane, but we could see there were no lights on it. And then it was stationary for quite a while before it started moving again, and then seemed to speed up a bit, went over the Mediterranean, and eventually moved down and looked as if it submerged into the Mediterranean.
Wow.
And that was on a Friday. I
It
remember
was a Friday
you
evening. Yeah.
spotted it. You
Yeah.
were sitting here. It was quite early in the evening because it was in winter. It was around about 6 or 7 in the evening.
And
We
it
hear a
was
lot of.
You
Yeah,
didn't
please,
take a
please, Sarah.
picture.
no, I mean, I was convinced it was a plane, and then I was a plane wouldn't stop for that amount of time because it wouldn't have the amount of fuel on board that would allow it to
Okay.
actually stop there for 45 minutes and actually just kind of
45
hover.
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time.
45 minutes. So we can rule out drones as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the
Because the
same
battery
with
of a drone doesn't last more than, I believe, 25, 30 minutes.
Exactly.
And something like the International Space Station keeps moving, doesn't it? It's
Yeah,
not
of course.
stationary.
And it's very fast.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you
Yeah.
don't see it. First of all, I've seen these space stations a dozen of times, okay, with my telescopes, especially sometimes. First of all, it's very fast. It passes in front of the moon like this
right.
big, okay?
Right.
And it is big, but it's relatively very small when you see it with your eyes. And definitely you can't capture it with a mobile phone. First of all, a mobile phone uses a wide angle. And when you use a wide angle, whatever it is in front of it, it becomes small.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can't get decent pictures of the moon with a mobile phone, can you?
Okay. So the moon is this big, you see it with your own eyes, and you see just a dot.
Little dot. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, when you exclude these things, all you're left with is questions.
We were almost hypnotized by it. It was interesting that it just didn't seem to occur to us to get the phone and even try and take a picture. But we just we went out on the balcony and we were just going, wow, what is it? That's interesting. And just watching it like we were caught in some kind of trance with it. It was fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I was convinced all along it was a plane behaving weirdly. So, I really wasn't convinced at that point. But it was when I saw the one which I've taken the photos of, that I was starting to think, there is something interesting happening over Gozo, because again, that one was hovering for about 45 minutes on Sunday evening before it moved off. And unfortunately, I couldn't see where it went because it was obscured by houses. But and I wasn't even actually aware of it being there. My deaf cat alerted me to it because he's very kind of tuned into what's going on in the sky. And I did have another sighting a couple of Sundays later of something similar, and again he told me about it.
You've had 3 altogether?
I've had 3 altogether, yeah. I mean, I had several as a child, but kind of similar.
So was that back in the UK?
That was back in the UK, yeah, as a child.
And you were down in Brighton?
I was. I mean, you get quite a lot along the sort of coastline and over the Sussex Downs, in that sort of area. And I did see a number of things which now I can categorize, along with these sightings that I've had. But, certainly, again, what I saw here did not behave like a plane and was hovering for way too long to be a plane. And, we're obviously in the flight path here. We see a lot of planes constantly. So,
but we're used to them coming in, and you see the headlights, and they get bigger and bigger, and then they start going off to go down the.
Then you start hearing also the engines.
The engines,
exactly,
But with this, there was nothing. No sound. Nothing.
Nothing at all.
No, it was extraordinary.
And what was really interesting with the one I've sent you photos of was there was a member of your group, and this is how I initially came to hear about your group.
Yes.
I remember.
David saw something similar at a similar sort of time, and he's over near Maliha. So, so that made me think, okay, there is something in there. And
you're not bonkers.
Well, I mean, I can't comment on that, but certainly, that sort of validated what I'd seen.
Yeah, she might be, but the mobile phone isn't.
No, exactly.
And I also sent the photos to a couple of groups in the UK as well, which are obviously far more heavily populated. And again,
did they reply?
They did, and they went, oh, very interesting. And
it is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, they validated them and said, oh, there are people who've seen something similar. So, but it's not the kind of conventional that people see, like a group of three or the sort of saucer shape or whatever.
No.
It wasn't conventional, but obviously, still very valid as far as they were concerned.
And can I ask you something? And I think I picked this up from listening to some of Paola Harris's interviews. I'm curious about the possibilities of organic space objects and interdimensional travel and portals which could be ways into interdimensional travel. And I don't know if you remember Francis Aloysios, the temple man, the alternatives temple man in Malta and Gozo. But
Oh, yes. Yeah.
he believed, he used to live in the apartment underneath me, funnily enough. And we know his wife very well, Christine, and she's done a lot of research into Lemuria and all of that stuff, the Atlantis stuff. And he felt there was a portal literally where Sarah and I are sitting now, a Gozo portal, which is between where Hondok is and Camino, that there is a portal there. And I suppose, actually, as I'm thinking about it, that's sort of the direction that this UFO that we saw went in. So I'm curious what you think about these things.
Well, I believe there are portals all over the world. Okay. And I believe also in interdimensional incurrence from these non-human entities.
It makes more sense, doesn't it? Because surely in a conventional craft, to travel the distances where we are capable of thinking about doesn't seem humanly possible, does it?
First of all, we have to appreciate that the first closest star is 25,000 light years away. So that means that if you have to travel in the speed of light to the speed of light, it will take you 25,000 years. And don't forget that the universe is expanding, not contracting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I shifted my belief that from extraterrestrials, these could be interdimensional beings.
Yes.
Something that I want to emphasize as well is that people within the government, within the American government, in the Pentagon especially, they are called the Collins Elite. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
No,
Okay?
but tell us
No?
more.
Okay. They believe that these are demonic. Yeah.
Oh,
In fact, that
because?
is the major reason why they don't want the truth to come out. Now, if you look at the biblical texts and the apocryphal texts, okay, we always read about angels and demons, the fallen angels, the war in heaven, Lucifer being cast down to earth.
The
And
apocalypse and
I mean, okay, apocalypsis comes from two Greek words, which is a new start. It's not the end.
Oh, that's
Okay?
interesting.
Yeah. So don't think that every new beginning must have an end. Okay.
Yes, this is true.
But things have to be destroyed in order to be rebuilt. And that is also in Hindu tradition. Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at the stories of the Great Flood, it's not just in the Christian Bible.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. Okay. It's everywhere. And stories about demons, angels, it's everywhere as well. The Japanese have their own demons. The Islam has their own demons. They call them jinn. Okay, it's from where genie comes from. Okay, jinn. And don't you think that there is, let's say it, a spiritual presence that is controlling us and it's controlling also our leaders? This is something that I believe, that there is a non-human intervention so that they influence our leaders.
Mm-hmm. Do you see this as inherently a positive or good spiritual presence, or is it negative, or does it have the light and the dark?
Well, first of all, in our dimension, in the 3D, three dimension, there is always two polarities, okay? There is
Yes.
the good and bad.
Mm.
Obviously, you cannot distinguish light if you don't have the dark.
Yes.
So I believe that there is two factions that they are at war. And what I believe also is that, first of all, the word angel, it comes from a Greek word angelos, which is a messenger. Okay? Now, the word demon comes from the word daemon, which is something that makes it happen. It's like a conveyor belt, okay? It's like something moving.
Like a catalyst?
Like a catalyst. Now,
Mm-hmm.
in the Bible, it doesn't specify angels and demons, good and bad. It doesn't say that. Just remember that in the Exodus, when God sent his angel to kill the firstborn son of the Pharaoh, it was an angel, it wasn't a demon.
Mm.
So demons and angels are the same thing. It's just the message, how you interpret the message. Okay? So that's why they tell you don't kill the messenger. I'm
Yeah.
just a messenger. I'm
Mm.
passing on instructions. I'm
Mm.
passing on information. And remember that if these entities they live outside time, they can manipulate time. So they know our past, our present, and our future.
Mm.
So what they can do is intervene in our past to influence our future. And that
Mm.
is the belief of a lot of ufologists nowadays,
Mm-hmm.
like, for example, Corrado Malanga, who's an Italian researcher, like, um, I mean, a lot of people now, they're
Mm-hmm.
talking about that there is a spiritual connection between UFOs and
Mm.
these things, okay?
That would make sense because it brings me back to the photo that Sarah did take of
Hmm.
the UFO, because bearing in mind what you were saying about how the brain will construct a picture from the parts that it sees, it looked round the outside edge as if it was an Ouroboros, which of
Hmm.
course is the world snake that eats its own self, which is
Yeah.
about creation, it's about
Hmm.
destruction and
Start and
rebirth.
end. Yeah.
And I wondered whether this was actually a way of communicating through Sarah to humankind that they, whoever they are watching and aware and are warning us that we are in danger of destroying ourselves, even though obviously every destruction brings a new beginning. And if you
Hmm.
think of what has been going on in the world in general at the moment, and it also links in very much with the astrology of the
Hmm.
times, that there is something about the breaking down of the old way of doing things, and
Yeah.
people are not allowing themselves to be controlled or believe everything they are told anymore. I think people are becoming much more questioning. And I wondered whether UFOs, a lot of their influence or potential influence is to give us messages
Direction.
through symbols.
Yeah.
That makes sense to the people that
Yeah.
can pick it up and then hopefully try and translate it
Hmm.
to those that will listen.
But it begs the question, why would they pick on a deaf Thai cat and me in Gozo to get that message across?
You've got a channel because you've got your YouTube channel.
Sarah,
Maybe.
they can use whatever they want just to
Mhm.
pass on the message.
Mm.
Now, if you believe that these entities are interdimensional, So they can control also our thoughts. Okay?
Yeah.
They cannot directly intervene, but they can, how you say, suggest
Mm-hmm.
humanity
So
to
put a
do things.
thought in.
Yeah, put
I
a
see
thought
what
in.
you mean. Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, like they can do it with you, they can do it with a cat. Okay? Now, the thing that you have to remember is that our mind creates reality. We
Yeah.
create as we speak. Okay? I don't know if you ever heard of the word egregore. It's in
Yes.
the occult term. Basically, egregore is when a big group of people start believing in something,
Mm.
that something becomes reality.
Mm-hmm.
Like for example, if I convince you
Mm-hmm.
that this cup is
Mm-hmm.
does miracles, it will start
Mm-hmm.
making miracles.
Yeah.
I
The
don't know
power
if
of the
you
mind.
ever
Mm.
heard that there are pieces of Jesus' cross around the world.
Mm.
Yeah.
Now, if that was true, with all the pieces scattered around the world, we would build a ship, not a cross. Okay, but
Mm.
people still believe, and they go with congregations.
Mm.
Okay, I'm going to say something about this. Create congregations, prayers, to go there and worship, pray, whatever to that relic. Okay,
Mm.
now look at the Old Testament, for example. Now, the Old Testament always says that God wanted people to gather into groups and pray. And what did all gods, ask to the people, to the humans? Prayers, sacrifice.
Mm.
Okay, you are born a sinner, so
Mm.
you're always at the mercy of someone like a judge to clean you or to clean yourself and to judge you. So humanity always lived like a slave.
Yeah.
I always say that we were engineered to be slaves and programmed to self-destruct. Aren't we doing it nowadays?
We are. It's a very good
Okay.
point. And
So
I think
why they always asked congregations? Why? Because they feed on our emotions, they feed on our fears,
mm,
they feed on our sacrifices.
mm,
And that's why I believe there is this spiritual connection to it. That these entities might not be physical at all, but since they are crossing different dimensions
mm,
and obviously coming into our dimension, which is the third dimension,
mm,
they must or they have to obtain a physical body. Okay?
mhm. What do you mean they have to obtain a physical body? Are we getting into the areas now of when people channel in non-dimensional or non-physical beings?
Okay.
Is that what
I
you're
will
implying?
I will answer this question by,
Hmm.
let's take for example, I mentioned earlier the visions of the Madonna. Okay, Madonna.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know how you call it.
Madonna. That
The
does.
Madonna.
That'll do.
Okay. Does the Madonna need a statue to cry in order to deliver a message?
Well, if people want her to, I suppose.
If I'm God, I would do like this and pass on the message to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at all the writings in
Hmm.
all the books, and not just Catholic Christian religion,
Mm.
you will always find that these entities, the demons and the angels, they follow a rule. Okay? They cannot intervene with
Hmm.
humanity,
Hmm.
but they can suggest, they can nudge.
Mm.
Okay? And also in what you call it, exorcism, for example, the exorcist always asks for the name of the demon being exorcised. And the trick is to ask it 3 times. Because when you ask the entity 3 times, there is a rule that he has to follow. He has to tell you the truth on the 3rd time. Okay? So, what I'm saying is this. They move in a regulated way, but they can still interfere with humanity. They can still instill, nudge ideas to people. Like, for example, you see a vision, you go and tell it to a lot of people, most of the people won't believe you, but there will be a small group where you will congregate and go build a temple, a church, a chapel, or a shrine, and you go there praying. They are feeding on they are like energy vampires.
So who are they? Where are they? Where do they live? And why do they want to control humanity?
Okay,
Is that a big question?
it's a very big question. Yes, very big question. Who are they? I don't know. Where they live, maybe they don't live at all. They just exist.
On another dimension.
Yeah, on another dimension. Maybe humanity has something special. And that is, we have a physical body and a soul. Now, if you look at the Book of Enoch, for example, which is one of the apocryphal scriptures, okay? When God casted out 200 angels from heaven, put them into our dimension, into our physical world, God had already created humans, okay? What happened is that these entities, these angels, they saw the woman of men, and it is written that they made love to them, okay? They made love to women because they wanted flesh. They always asked for flesh. So what we have that they don't have is carnal pleasures, okay? Something that when you lack a physical body, you can't have. For me, we are just entertainment. We are like Disney World for them. That's what I believe.
A theme park.
A theme park.
Theme park
Exactly.
Planet Earth.
Exactly. It's like you are watching a series, a comedy series.
Well, sometimes we've actually said, haven't we? It feels like we're in some reality show.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes I feel like my life and myself are being manipulated for the pleasure of others. So, sort of being moved around like a chess piece.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, that would sort of fit in with that ethos.
Yeah. You mentioned the chess piece. We are the pawns.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most of us are into the know. So I'm no longer just a lifeless pawn. I know, and that I know, okay, this, that is my greatest weapon.
Yes,
That
I
as long
understand.
as you know, okay, and then we can congregate, yes, to destroy
We
this
can congregate. Yes,
chessboard.
we can congregate.
But unfortunately, people think that the line behind the pawns is what's controlling the chess. No, those are pawns too. There is something else behind them, the chess player, who is doing all the decisions.
Last time we spoke, or when we had our first chat, you mentioned something about tricksters, and I'm curious to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, of course. That is the whole point, in fact. When you think that something is happening, let's say, for example, you see a ghost. Okay. Now I'm going to deviate a bit from UFOs.
Yeah.
But still, I believe they are interconnected. Okay. because I believe that there is one phenomena at play, which is behaving itself according to the era, according to the knowledge, and according to the beliefs of humanity. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I might see a UFO, you might see a ghost.
Right.
Now, sometimes we receive messages from dead relatives, for example. Okay, I know it's wishful thinking. We always everyone wants to live forever, okay? Everyone wants that when I die I go to heaven. Okay? But who knows what's after this life form, okay? When this machine dies, heat, where is heat? Where does it go? And we know that energy can neither be created nor destroyed.
Yes.
Okay? So, but changes shape.
Yeah.
So we might be living, we might be going somewhere into cosmic, okay, energy. So that is why I don't believe when people receive messages from the dead. So you ask me, so how are you receiving a message which only you and your father knows, for example? Because there is the trickster element. Because these non-human entities, they know everything. They are here with us. Okay? They are just invisible to our eyes. Sorry. Now remember that we can see a certain spectrum of light. Okay? We only see light. I'm not seeing you. Okay? I'm just seeing reflected light. Without light, I can't see you. Okay?
Yeah.
So our eyes can see a broad spectrum of light, but we cannot see infrared, we cannot see gamma rays, we cannot see microwaves, we cannot see UV light, not even UV light we can see. Okay? So, and even our eyes flicker at a certain rate. I will tell you a short story. I just got a very interesting interview this week. A person seeing a ghost through a mobile phone while her fiance saw nothing, and it was just behind her head. Okay?
Wow.
And my only explanation is because the mobile phone, the camera, has a flicker rate different than your eyes. Okay?
Yes.
Just point your camera, your mobile phone to a television, and you will start seeing it doing like this lines. Or a neon tube, the neon light, okay? Put a video camera in front of the neon light, and you will start see it flickering. We don't see it flickering. We see it constant light. But light flickers.
How do you explain that, for instance, both Sarah and I can see things? I see orbs. I see, and the mobile phone has actually, when we've done videos for the channel, we've picked up orbs, especially when we went to the chapel of St. Carew. There were orbs flying all over the place. It was absolutely teeming with it, with energy. And some of them I have been able to see, apart from the camera seeing them, and some only the camera seems to see.
Okay. So you are asking me how people are able to see things.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now, first of all, there are people who are sensitive, who are tuned in. Okay. Let's say, for example, you are watching a movie on television. Okay. You are tuned in to one channel. That doesn't mean that the other channels, they don't exist. Okay. You are just tuned in to that channel. And that's why you are only seeing that movie. Now, there are people who are constantly tuned in, and there are people who occasionally, like myself and my daughter, we tune in occasionally and we experience stuff. Okay? I know a person who is related to my brother, and she constantly sees things. Constantly. It's like I'm seeing you now. She might see 3 people behind you.
Right.
And that's her norm. She's used to it. But she is tuned in to that frequency. We are transceivers. We are not just receivers, we are transmitters as well. So we transmit and we receive. So that's what I think why people are more sensitive than others.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I don't know what you
But
think.
to conclude on the trickster, because I didn't conclude, what I believe is that these non-human entities take familiar forms to trick you. So let's say, for example, I told you my story about the parking ticket. I found something which had been manifested out of nothing, okay, in my car, and it reminded me it was connected to my father. At first, I thought that my father was sending me a message. That is my wishful thinking mind. But then when I started thinking, I said, hold on. Could it be this is a trickster that is trying to convey a message which is not, I mean, it's portraying itself like my father, but it's not. And again, by the help of medium and other people, it was just a trickster. I know it was a trickster.
I don't know, and I don't know what Sarah thinks, but I feel that mediumship, whatever it is, and whatever the the truth is behind it, it can actually be an incredibly helpful experience for people when they actually visit a medium or receive information from a departed loved one. And I don't see a problem with that.
Okay, I believe in mediums. Okay, I believe that a person can be a medium. I have no problem with that. The only problem is who's the messenger.
So it's
And I
really
believe that a medium should apply the proper tests to the entity by asking 3 times.
which I think actually, to be fair, the mediums we know have done. And certainly Sarah has an amazing ability to connect with spirit, which I've observed. She won't own up to it, but she can. And I would say the information she comes through with is extraordinary, quite extraordinary. And it's never appeared to be malevolent or,
Okay.
so.
But yeah, because I've always had it and I've grown up with it and it's just been there, I don't accept it as anything extraordinary. It's just, to me, it's normal.
It's programmed in you. I mean, it's if you are a medium, it's like, I don't know, I know how to paint. Other people, they don't know. That's mediumship as well. I mean, everyone is a medium. Through my art, I am the medium through my art. Okay?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So once you are in the zone, you are zoned out, because when you're doing art, you are zoned out. You are receiving messages, and that's why we call it in spirit, inspired. Okay? That's why you are inspired, because you are receiving from the spirit. And that only happens when you live the now, when you are in your zone. When all the noise around you, you are able to silence all that noise and you are into your zone, then yes, you will start receiving messages. For example, I'm not a medium, I don't talk to spirits, but sometimes I have downloads. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I hate the sun, for example. I don't go into the sun because I have fair skin and tattoos, so I don't go into the sun. But whenever I'm in the sun, especially alone, I receive a sort of, I don't know, it's like a download.
Yeah.
Once, recently, I had to take a pen and write on my hand.
Yeah.
I came rushing at home to write whatever came to my mind.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it came. I don't know how it got into my mind.
Mm. And this is something that I also experience, and Sarah does in a different way. But I will get just periods of time where there is so much information that seems to want to come through me. Certainly when I'm working with astrology and working with clients, it feels as if I'm just giving them information from somewhere else, that it's not particularly me that is talking, but some other energy that is talking. And when I first started experiencing this, my way, like you, was to write down.
Mhm.
And it comes so fast that you can hardly keep up.
No, you can't
And then
keep
you
up.
read it back and you think, oh, what is
What the-
this? But
Yeah.
to kind of bring things to a close, I'm really curious because I mentioned this towards the start about the potential of organic ships, that ships
Yeah.
are not actually metal constructs,
Yeah.
but seem to be some kind of seamless organic being that is able to transport other organic beings
Okay.
interdimensionally through the universe. What's your feeling about that?
Okay. It could be they are organic. It could be there are these kind of crafts that are organic. Okay. We saw this in the movie Nope,
Oh,
for
I didn't
example.
see that movie.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yes,
a
it was in that. Ah,
rubbish movie. I
oh.
hate it. But the only thing that was interesting
Mhm,
was that the UFO was organic,
mhm,
was a living being, and it was conscious. Now,
mhm,
we can do this kind of stuff silicone based. It doesn't have to be carbon based, and it
mhm,
still be, let's call it organic.
mhm,
Okay. If you grow an artificial limb on a silicone based structure, it's still
mhm.
considered organic.
Yeah.
So it could be an engineered chip, yes.
Mm.
It could be organic, yes, but it's not a something that nature created.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, just out of curiosity, there is a group of people, they are called the Sky Watchers in America. They're a small group of people, and they are called psionics. And they use the CE5 techniques to summon UFOs. And
What
they
is
came up,
CE5 techniques?
okay, CE5, I organize CE5 on a monthly basis. And out of 7 events, I had 5 successful events. We saw stuff.
Wow.
Okay. And recently, I mentioned that we had electrical faults, watches,
Yes.
mobile
Oh, yes. Tell us
phones,
about
cars.
that.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's during the
Wow.
CE5.
Wow. But what is
That's during.
CE5?
Okay, CE5 is another term. Remember, I was talking about CE1, CE2, CE3.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, everyone knows CE1, it's lights in the sky. CE2 is when the UFO lands and leaves physical marks
Mm-hmm.
or messes with electronics. In fact, we had a CE2 experience now.
Right.
Okay. CE3 is when you see the actual being together with the craft.
Right.
CE4 is the abduction,
Mm-hmm.
and CE5 it's called um, human initiated contact.
Wow.
So basically, again, a congregation. Remember,
Ah,
people gathering, meditating with one intention, common intention, is to invite these entities over, if it's
right.
safe to do so. Okay?
Mm. Then I
We
think,
start by playing a set of tones,
like in Close Encounters movie.
exactly,
Huh.
okay? But we use the crop circle tones. Basically, the crop circle tones are a set of tones that were translated from the crops in Wiltshire, okay? I believe it was 2010. They attached some electronic stuff to the stems, and it was translated into music. So basically, the frequency of the stems was translated into music, and we play these tones. After the tones are played, okay, we gather into a circle and do a guided meditation. It lasts for 30 minutes or so. When everything has been finished, we just look at the skies. Now, during the first event, we saw two bright orbs, orange orbs in Madlena. There is the video on YouTube as well, on my channel. We saw three lights in Mijra al-Ferha. We saw a huge group of lights, which was last April, and
Wow.
that's on YouTube as well.
Do you do any of these events in Gozo? We could come.
So far, no, but good point.
Yeah,
I
because
will. The problem is that people come. I
I
mean,
know.
people will come.
Mm.
Last event 3 weeks ago, we had 50 people,
Oh, wow. Wow.
including two journalists from the Times of Malta. In
Oh,
fact, just before this interview, he sent me a message asking me about the tones
Oh, how funny. How
because
funny.
he's writing. This is what he said. Hey, Keith, I'm writing up the article now.
Oh, wow.
And
Fantastic.
he asked me one thing I wanted to ask you. What's the origin of the sound that were played?
Oh, wow.
So I
Oh,
replied the same
yes.
question twice.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, wow. Keith, this has been absolutely fascinating. I think we are going to want to come back and have a chat with you again.
Sure,
If
sure.
you would be
Whenever
willing,
you
because I
want.
think there's so many topics. We've only just touched the
And
the
I
sort of tip
invite
of
you
the
for the
iceberg.
CA5,
We'd love to. We
but
would love
also
to.
I will plan one in Gozo. Even if we're
Oh,
just 10 people,
fantastic.
we can do it. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be great.
that would be
and I
fantastic.
know a good place.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, where would that be?
Is it quite easy to
Um,
get to? Because my mobility is
Yeah,
not great.
it's not problem. It's what's called the observatory. There's an observatory.
Is that up north
Nadur,
of Nadur? You mean on the
Nadur.
Belvedere?
Oh,
On the Belvedere? Because there's a
Yes,
Belvedere along there.
yeah.
Yes, there's lots of
There is
places to
a
sit. It's very
circle.
easy, actually. Yes.
It's
Yes, I know.
it's a nice place.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
very
that's good. It's
quiet.
got a good, it's up high, so you've got a good view.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
very dark. We use it for astronomy. So
Yeah.
I mean, if there's an observatory, that
Uh-huh.
means it's dark. There's no light
Yes, that's
pollution.
true.
So
That's true. That's true.
it's a
Yeah.
very clean place. I mean, it's very comfortable.
Mm.
We can
brilliant.
organize one there.
Oh, sounds
Excellent.
like a good plan.
Good.
So I'd just like to say to our viewers that if you have any questions that you would like to put to Keith, we will leave his YouTube links in the description box, and let us know in the chat if there are questions or topics around all of this that you would like us to talk to Keith about, because we can arrange another interview. And do you have anything you would like to say to Keith before we sign off?
No, I mean, I would just like to thank you very much for your time.
Very welcome. Thank you for
It has
the
been
opportunity.
fascinating. And, there's obviously so many subjects that we could discuss in a lot more depth. So, I'm sure that our viewers will actually want us to come back to you, but,
Yes.
and discuss some of those in more depth.
Yes, I think that it's leaving me with more questions than always with more questions than answers.
Never straight answers.
No,
not at all.
And
Never.
I just think, there's so many things I could sort of talk about, and I'm thinking, I just want to say quickly, because it's in my mind, about is it the Rendlesham Forest incident in the UK? Because I saw a recent program about that again, and they had a feeling that that machine or that UFO could have been organic, because it was
Yeah, in
seen
fact,
as it had nothing. That's right.
When he touched it, it felt like conscious. It felt like,
yes,
first of all, he felt like aesthetic. He felt aesthetic charge.
Yes.
And also it was like shark skin. So you know
Yes.
when you do
Mm.
like this, it's smooth, but when you go
And then
upwards,
it's all
it's
spiky.
scaly.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but the thing was aware of him touching it,
Yes.
so
I mean,
that's why
that's
it could be
extraordinary.
conscious as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that
A
makes
lot
much
of
more sense, doesn't it, as we sort of bring this to a close.
Penny. The thing is
Yes.
this: would you think that these things, these crafts,
Mm-hmm.
if you go inside them, you won't find controls, you
No,
won't find a
no,
joystick, you
no,
won't find a
no.
screen? I
Mm.
believe that these things, they operate by themselves.
They just know what to do, don't they? They just know what to do. You just hop on board. So I hope you'll hop on board with us again. We now don't believe we know, but we always knew.
Good. Good one.
I'm gonna stop the recording and say thank you to everyone. Please remember, do check out Keith Illul's channel, and also remember to like, comment, and subscribe, not just to our channel, but also to Keith's. And we will have Keith back, and we will have more interesting and stranger things to discuss very soon. So thank you,
Thank you.
and bye for now.
Bye.